We've also got a number of pre-submitted questions as well, so I think I'll start with those. And I think the first is more based or more focused on macroeconomics and a more global approach, which is what is the Mayar view of global inflation or inflation across the major economies? I guess this is in some part driven by the fact that due to the pandemic, fiscal expansion and fiscal stimulus has been one of the main ways in which governments have tried to combat and mitigate the economic effects. So, Aziz, you're currently on mute.
Right, thank you, Mark. Aubrey, if you can also join us, please. So we've talked a lot in the past about, well, what I think is our inability to actually forecast any macroeconomic moves. I don't think it's our circle of competence. And we can share our thoughts, but frankly, my guess is as good as yours. I will tell you that I was surprised kind of coming out of the great financial crisis and this whole monetary expansion that we've seen in the balance sheets of central banks around the world. I was surprised that despite all of that, inflation remained very muted. So that was kind of, I think, something that I was, well, perhaps you think that would have gotten me to refuse to answer this question, given how wrong I was. But what I can say, though, there is something different this time around compared to what we saw coming out of the financial crisis, which is this time around, we actually saw a massive increase in fiscal spending as opposed to just monetary expansion that we saw coming out of the great financial crisis. And so I just want to highlight that that is different, and it could be that that makes a difference between whether we have inflation or not, because it's potentially easier for the money to flow through, in a sense, to the real economy as opposed to financial markets when it's a fiscal expansion as opposed to a monetary one. And but on the other hand, it's also very hard to see how you can have big inflation with the level of excess supply that we have around the world today. So you may have a necessary but may not be necessarily sufficient condition to see higher inflation. But I mean, Aubrey will tell you, Aubrey has a great analogy. I'll let him say it. But I mean, the short answer is I've got no idea. My guess is as good as yours. If you look at long-term bonds, the market is saying we won't see any inflation anytime soon. But we shall see. Aubrey?
Well, I'm curious what this great analogy is now.
Think of bricks.
Yeah, well, the trouble with inflation is that it's like dragging a brick with an elastic band. Nothing, 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 and then suddenly you've got a brick in the face. Or Brexit. I don't know. I can see structural reasons why you're not going to have inflation. I can see reasons why you should. I think the thing is, if you have a portfolio of great businesses, in the long run, it's not going to matter. But actually, if you do believe in inflation, equities are really the only place to be right now. Do you really want to own bonds if we have inflation? I mean, where they are now, I mean, wow. You know, any sort of form of fixed income, yeah, could be very painful. So, no, the answer is, again, I don't know. It's not our specialty, but if you do believe in inflation, I'd say equities are the least worst place to be.